It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Leo's off today, but Alex Lindsay, Adam Christianson, and Allison Sheridan are all here, plus a cast of characters from the Apple event itself. We're here to talk about Apple's new Watch OS 2, the new iPad Pro, the gigantic iPad that Apple announced today, the new Apple TV with its game-centric remote control, and so much more details on that, plus the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus. So much details, so much news. All of that coming right up on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 471, recorded September 9th, 2015. We have pink iPhones. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the best way to create a beautiful website or online store. Enter offer code MacBreak and get 10% off. Squarespace. Build it beautiful. And by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching for a simple payment solution, check out Braintree. With one simple integration, you can offer your customers every way to pay. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to braintreepayments.com/MacBreak. And by Harry's. For guys who want a great shave experience for a fraction of what you're paying now, go to harrys.com. Get $5 off your first purchase by entering the code MacBreak when you check out. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover Apple in all of its glory. And Leo's out today, of course. I am not Leo. But an incredible simulation. My name is Mike Elgan. I'm the news director here at Twit, and with me is Alex Lindsay.
I'm back.
How you doing?
I feel like we were just here.
It was like minutes ago. It felt like very, very strange. And we also have on Skype Adam Christianson, who's the host of MacCast. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad I could be on.
Now, I don't know if you watched the event or not. Just kidding.
So before, I think we all did.
Yeah, so Apple, of course, just had their big Hey Siri event. And there's lots of details. You know, this is one of those events where they didn't introduce a completely new product line like, you know, the iPad, which you've never seen before. They did come out with an iPad we haven't seen before. But generally, there's a lot of details, a lot of upgrading for existing lines. What is it out of this entire event, Adam, that completely jumped out at you and surprised you or blew you away in any sort of way? What jumps to mind?
Yeah, definitely the iPad Pro. I mean, what they led with. I was not expected to be as excited about it going into it as I am now, having seen what Apple has done with that. You know, I think it's going to be a big deal for iPads in a lot of different areas. And I think part of it for me is really the accessories that they announced along with it. We kind of knew a little bit about the stylus. I'm curious to dig in more and look deeper at the technology under there, but definitely what they demoed from, you know, sort of the reality distortion field side of things is really amazing and looks, you know, like a good advancement on the stylus. And then the keyboard is also very interesting, and that I didn't see coming. So it's always nice to be surprised.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is the $99 Apple Pencil and the $169, I believe, Smart Keyboard. What is it that they said about the keyboard that made you think that this was any different or any better than all the millions of other keyboards that are out there, or the keyboard that comes with the Surface Pro, or any other sort of keyboard stuff, you know, that's built into a cover? What did you like about what they said?
I like that it's the fabric material. I like the thinness. I like that it's able to be connected via, you know, the magnetic connector and draw power from the iPad. I mean, it's going to be integrated. I think it's the integration. You know, there's a lot of other great keyboard products out there. As a matter of fact, I'm happy now I held off because I was looking at the Logitech in fabric, sort of fabric-y one, which is really nice as well. But, you know, the fact that this is built in and integrated, and I still might get that for my iPad too, because I don't think I'm going to be upgrading that yet, or Air 2 rather. But yeah, I think it's really about the integration, just that it's sort of built in and built into the cover and done in a way that really only Apple could do it.
Well, it's integrated with the cover
hardware,
with a new, like, a 3-circle sensor or connector type of thing, which I assume also connects magnetically.
Yeah, I'm assuming it does, yeah.
Yeah, so Can you imagine what else that might be used for other than just like a really cool dock technology? Like what did you make of that new connector standard that they came up with?
Well, I mean, it looks like they still are using the lightning cable for your standard charging and stuff like that. So it looks like at this point, it really is only the keyboard accessory. I can't fathom what else. I mean, hopefully it's something they open up to third parties, you know, to again take their take on a keyboard. I don't know. Apple may keep that proprietary, though. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either. And of course, there are other surprises, including quad speakers, which I didn't quite understand what they were getting at. Are the speakers at the top of the iPad going to be playing like a higher register sound with a, you know, the bottom are woofers or something like that? Are they mixing it up like that, or is it quadraphonic sound, or what did you make of what they were saying about the quad speakers?
I think it's stereo sound, as far as I know. At least that was sort of the rumors in the lead up. And but then they talked about this. You know, it's going to detect orientation and adjust. I'm hoping that maybe there's some sensors in there. I don't know if they would use ambient light sensors or something like that to maybe even adjust. You know, if you actually cover up a speaker or something like that, maybe they can adapt the sound to sort of compensate so you're not getting that muffling noise as you're holding it. Because I would imagine, since you've got speakers in each four corner, you know, you may at one point sort of cover one up, and if the sound fluctuates, that sort of breaks the audio experience.
Of course, Alex, this was a demo, and you know, everything looks good in a demo unless you screw up the demo. What is the make or break on this? I mean, when we actually try it, when you try the pen, the keyboard, the iPad Pro, what are the features that are going to make you thrilled and need to buy it, or the things can make you, that's not what I expected, I'm not going to buy it? What's the make or break on that?
It's the pen. I mean, you know, for me, I think that the pencil. The pencil. The pencil. No, I think that I think the keyboard's going to be great. It's fine. I do like the connector, because now you're not using Bluetooth, and you're not trying to slot something into your Lightning connector. So I think that's fine. But I probably, without the pen technology, really. I think that's what's getting me really excited. I use my Surface on a lot of other things. I really like to write. Yeah. So I really like to be able to draw on things and scratch things out and scribble on it and say, no, not this, and so on and so forth. And I think that that's going to be a big deal. And I think there's going to be a lot of artists. I think it's interesting that we hit, you know, some consumers, but we also hit medical. We hit artists. I think there's a lot of artists that are going to get really excited. I don't think this is the end of Wacom. I think a lot of people were mentioning that, like, is this the end of Wacom? Because Wacom still going to integrate with you a lot of professional level tools. So I don't think that, but I do think that obviously everyone making styluses for the iPad, you know, they've got a little bit of time left. They can sell to the old users. Yeah, don't you think? Can you imagine 6 months from now the iPad Pro being used like a Wacom tablet and supported by some of those same companies that you alluded to, using a 5K iMac display that's been rumored? To do professional level? It could be. I mean, definitely, you'd have to have a Lightning connector to have enough low latency, you know. But you could I could definitely see them using that. But I don't think you're going to get the same. I still think the Wacom tablet is going to give you even lower latency. It's going to give you, you know, I think that you're still getting more control. This isn't. Until I see it, I won't know. I mean, I own a lot of Wacom tablets. So as a Wacom tablet owner. I don't. It would take a lot. It would take a lot to give it up, you know, for professional level pieces. But that said, be able to be on the road, and again, they're showing artists. But what about just doing a site survey and drawing things out and writing things in and taking notes? If the problem with writing text is really the latency. Like if it doesn't feel like it's, you know, it's going as fast as you're writing, it just really is very hard to write text. It's a horrible experience. Now, Anthony, let's get a handle on logistics. We want to talk to some people at the scene, and we also, Adam, you have a hard out. How much time do we have? 6 minutes.
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay. Yeah, so Anthony, do we want to go to the venue?
Hey, Mike. What's up?
Not much. And this is through the miracle of smartphone technology. Thank you for coming on and talking to us about this. Now, you got a chance, I imagine, to go fondle these various products. Is that right?
I did.
And
my fondling is all done. Now I'm out talking to you.
Wonderful. Now, where did they actually shepherd everybody to go look at the demos? Is there a secret room in that auditorium nobody knew about? Where did you actually go?
Yeah, actually, the walls were black, and they at the end they just opened up. So you thought it was a wall, but it wasn't.
That's cool, and they just like threw the curtain, I guess, to the side or whatever. And of course, in San Francisco, when walls come crumbling down, everybody freaks out because it's, of course, a major earthquake area. Now, let's start with the iPad Pro. You got a chance to play with that? Did you get a chance to play with the pen?
I didn't get a chance to play with the pen. Everybody had the pen, and they were trying to use that. But I did watch some people use it, and they were drawing, and it looked pretty responsive to what they were doing.
Yeah, and were people? Did it appear to you that there was that they solved the latency problem of of eliminating the perceptive delay?
Right. It looked like it because the people that were drawing, they would continue on, and that was great. So it wasn't that they were drawing a face and then stopped because there was latency. They just went right through it.
And I imagine you got a chance to use the iPhone. What was that like?
Yes.
You got to try. Did you try the? Did you take a picture with the fancy Harry Potter feature with the photograph where you take a picture and it captures video before and after you take the picture?
Yeah. Well, it does. I think a second and a half before and after. So that you can have that touch and it moves. So it's pretty cool. It is a cool thing. People are going to like that.
Is it pretty much the same? This is Alex. I know you can't see me. Is it pretty much the same form factor? I mean, is it identical or is it changed at all as far as size?
Yeah. There's nothing wildly that has changed. I think the most changes all the time in every iteration.
The most important thing is, do we have to buy new cases? I think that's what we all want to know, is do we have to buy new cases?
You know what? I don't use cases, so I don't know. I would have tried to put a case on if I use them, but I never use them.
And did you get a chance to try the remote, the new Siri remote?
They were demoing it in a second area, and the lineups to try the remote were crazy. So they were doing demos over there, and I watched one of those. It looked pretty much like it did on stage. You press and say, I want to watch, movies with Matthew McConaughey, and things just kind of pop up. I love the fact that it'll search across apps. That's great.
Yeah, that is a great feature, and of course the biggest test of whether this thing is going to be good enough to replace other competitors is going to happen when we get the apps and how those work and what they do and so on. So before we let you go, before we let you go, do you have any sort of larger impressions? What is it out of this whole event that you were surprised by, that you were thrilled with, that you were disappointed by, just overall impressions?
I'm wondering about the Apple TV. I don't know if it's going to be a big gaming system or not. That'll be interesting to see. They've had a great TV aspect of that, so we'll see how the rest works out. The iPad Pro, I was wondering if that was going to go to creative professionals or pros. They kind of, productivity, and they pulled both out, so that's good to see. We'll see if that pushes iPad sales a bit more. And the iPhone, the thing that we didn't really know was all the things that you could do with 3D touch or Force Touch, and that was good to see. Yeah, I enjoyed those. So overall, I mean, it was a packed show.
Did you get a sense of what the real difference is between?
Season for them.
Yeah. Did you get a sense of what the real difference is between Force Touch and 3D Touch? What's the difference? Is 3D Touch a software reference?
That I thought, even when I was watching it, that they were the same thing. So that's something I'm going to have to look at. Now, the only thing I can think of, because Force Touch allows to press a little and then a lot. And that's what 3D Touch seems to do, too. So I don't know if they changed the name of it or what they did, but it seems to be identical.
Jim Dalrymple, Editor-in-Chief of Loop Insight, thank you so much for taking a few minutes here to talk to us about your impressions. Once again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. And a little bit of delay there. And, again, that's Jim Dalrymple And so, yeah, we still have a little bit more time with Adam, so I'm going to sort of interrogate you a little bit, if you don't mind.
Alrighty. Yeah, absolutely.
And what were your thoughts generally about the Apple TV? Were you impressed, disappointed? What did you think about what they announced?
I was impressed. I was looking very forward to this upgrade. I think bringing in apps is going to be a big deal for the platform. We know that Apple's been we suspect that Apple's been trying to build this TV service and struggling with that. And so I think this is something that will get us through until then. It may even end up being the long-term solution for Apple, because one concern I would have if they do a TV service is what happens to these other providers, Hulu and Netflix and these companies that produce their own TV shows or on content for their platforms. Is that going to sort of rub them the wrong way, and would they want to pull out from having their apps on the Apple TV? So I think this is a good way to get all that content in there, and especially combined, like Jim was saying, with the universal search with Siri, to be able to search for content across all of those just by doing a simple voice search, I think is really somewhat of a game changer. I was trying to think of other devices that have this. I guess the Amazon Fire stuff has, and I haven't had a chance to play around with that, to be honest.
So how much do we, and by we I mean you, know about tvOS?
Not much. I mean, it's a brand new thing. So I'm in the developer program, so I will definitely be digging into that and find out, what's different in there, what's available. I think, one thing that's obvious is there's some way to tap into the metadata across the apps in terms of the universal search. I'm also very kind of excited about the new remote. I like the fact that it's bigger, and maybe I won't lose it all the time. It looked like, too, for the gaming thing, you can have multiple remotes. So one thing I didn't see, and I'm trying to dig around and find, is I don't think they announced what extra remotes cost.
Yeah. Because you're going to want extra when you lose it.
Well, or just to play games. I mean, they showed 2-player, 4-player games, so you would imagine everybody in the family is going to, have a remote if you're going to go into the gaming thing.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that struck me about this is that, of course, at $149 and $199, this is not huge. For Apple, these can't possibly be huge margins. The Apple TV itself has some pretty serious, smartphone type of electronics in it. And the remote, if I were to, based on nothing just except pure guesswork, I would guess that the price difference for manufacturing the new remote versus the old remote, I mean, the new one has sensors, that has a touch screen with the special glass. It's got the Siri integration, the microphone, all that kind of stuff. It's got to be 3, 4, 5, 10 times more expensive to manufacture than the old remote. And if it costs them $10 to manufacture, no big deal. But if it costs $70 or $80 to manufacture, then this is not a big profit generating product. If they have this more expensive remote, high end, Apple TV itself, and they're selling them for $150.
Right. No, I think it's it's about the content. It's about Apple selling more content. I'm sure they're not taking a loss on the hardware itself. That's just not something that Apple does. But yeah, it probably is a slimmer margin. I would agree with that than probably most of their products. But, they look at this as a content play. They're going to sell more games. They're going to sell more content for the Apple TV. So they're going to make it up on the back end for sure.
And what did you make of they seem to be implying that they have screensavers or something for the Apple TV. Did you understand what that was all about?
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, they've always had screensavers, some motion screensavers. I guess the idea would be you've got this big, gorgeous, flat screen TV. You want to kind of show some moving artwork. Again, kind of getting back to that Harry Potter analogy. And it did sound like they're laying in like some of the stuff they're doing with watchOS 2, where the backgrounds would change depending on time of day. Sort of thing. So you could have the cityscape up in the afternoon as the sun went on. It would sort of adapt. I thought they mentioned that in there, but it went by pretty quickly. So I don't know if that's a feature that's going to be a really big deal for this. I really think it's going to be about the games and the apps on the Apple TV. And the other, I meant to mention earlier, the other thing that was sort of not in the rumors was storage. I think a lot of the rumors were thinking storage was going to be 8 and 16 gigabytes, and I believe it's double that. Is it 32 and 64 or something like that? And I think that's all about more storage for apps.
Yeah. Very interesting. And I do think that screensaver thing is a little weird because they went out of their way to talk about how environmentally friendly they were. And then, oh, by the way, we have this feature that'll let you leave your TV on all the time, even when you're not actually using it. Yeah. So a little weird. Now, you know, most of the features in the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, 6S and 6S Plus were predicted. The 7,000 aluminum, the, you know, lots of these things were predicted. But I don't think the 3D touch stuff was. I think that was one of the categories of features that I hadn't heard about yet. What did you think of that whole new interface convention that they trotted out today?
The rumor mill called it Force Touch, so I think that was the main difference. And that one really kind of bugged me because, as you know, we were saying earlier, I don't get the difference between the two. It seems like Apple marketing is messing around with us. And if you notice, Craig Federighi, when he even talked about it, slipped and said Force Touch instead of 3D Touch. So I think even internally at Apple, it's a little bit confusing. You know, and the other thing, I was talking to some other folks I know about this as it was sort of happening live. And, you know, I like the new functionality. I like this idea of being able to sort of touch on an icon and expose additional features without having to open the app. Or it's got some almost spotlight-like functionality so I can sort of preview a document without actually having to open the app. And these are great features. The question is did they really need a whole new hardware technology to enable that? It seems like if I just were to have a long press, you know, on a touch screen, you could activate the same sort of UI functionality. So I'm curious to see how this is different. I know they have the haptic or taptic feedback with the taptic engine, so you'll get sort of a feel along with this, but it seems like they could have done this with software. So I'm curious to actually try it and see, you know, why did we need hardware to enable this functionality?
Yeah, it was really kind of strange, and I love the Apple spin on the camera because basically the sort of the anti-Apple view of this is that everybody's had these like high megapixel cameras for a long time, and finally Apple has got around to being what, you know, Samsung used to have years ago, and they're so behind the curve. Apple's spin was, oh, when people go up to like 12 megapixels and higher, it just ruins the photos. The photos look awful. But we, Apple, have cracked the code. We've figured out how to have 12 megapixel photos that look fantastic. And so we finally figured that out, and here it is. I thought that was a great, I mean, they might be completely accurate about that. I don't know, but I thought that was beautiful Apple spin.
Well, I mean, yeah, they are accurate about that to a degree because it's not just about the megapixels. And I know a lot of pro photographers, and we talk about this, and I've talked to them about it. And consistently, the iPhone, when it goes up against other smartphone cameras, even with the 8 megapixel sensor now, you know, it wins as being the top camera in terms of color accuracy, in terms of all of these things. So it's really about the whole package. It's, you know, it's about the lens system, it's about the image processing, it's about the sensor. And the quality of the sensor. So all these things go into making quality pictures. And I think that's, you know, Apple really focuses on the end result when it comes to its cameras. And, you know, in a lot of ways, this is sort of like the megahertz war and all these other things that we've had in the past. More is not necessarily always better. You know, do they need to sort of drive that home to consumers? I guess at this kind of an event, you've got tech press and you want to let those people know. But your average consumer just wants to know, does it take a great picture? Yeah. And I think hands down, the iPhone is one of the best smartphone, you know, cameras out there. And, you know, just not even just my opinion, other, you know, sort of tests and things like that. It's not maybe the best, depending upon the situation, but it's a pretty darn good camera, and it's just got better. So,
yeah. Well, I think we got to let you go, sadly.
Yeah.
We'll miss you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Sorry, it's a busy day. You know, it's that day, and Apple ran a little long. Last thing, I guess, and just in closing, you know, I was surprised. It seemed like the pacing was going really good at the beginning. They were kind of moving along through things. And I did kind of feel when they got to the iPhone stuff at the end, it sort of drug. And I don't know if it's maybe because, again, I thought the biggest announcement was the iPad Pro. I would have almost flipped the thing around and had them lead with the iPhone and then close with the iPad Pro. But you know, I don't know. They obviously made that decision thinking that the iPhone was the thing they wanted to spend. It felt like they spent the most amount of time on. I'll have to go back and watch and see if each one was sort of given equal time, but it felt longer, and it seemed to drag, at least for me. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, they had 4, you know, the announcement was in 4 giant chunks, and that's a lot of chunks to muster up the kind of excitement and energy that they like to muster for these products. And I did feel like by the time they got to the iPhone, they were kind of like, well, just rattling off the features, and it wasn't really that exciting. Okay, well, Adam Christianson is host of MacCast, which you can find at maccast.com. Yep. And Adam, thank you so much for joining us on this incredibly busy Apple Day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. I did think that the pacing, the decisions around the venue, the fact that they crammed in 4 major categories all together into a single event was very different. It was just a completely. The other thing is at the beginning that you normally say, "Oh, we've got this many downloads and we've got this much thing and we've dominated this."
And I bet I think that they probably had that, and when they got to the total length, they were like, "We're not going to add another 15 minutes to this." I think that at first I thought maybe they didn't do it because the numbers aren't something they want to talk about or whatever. But it looks like it was just editorial. We're going to cut this out. They probably had a presentation about the iPad Mini, and they cut that out because someone probably said 2 hours is as long as this is going to go, and we need to make sure that we don't go over that because we've been to 3-hour, announcements and with a lot less, in my opinion, a lot less to talk about. I mean, there was a lot to talk about here. I do agree that the iPhone part, I was a little like, okay, let's go. Like, I think part of it is that it felt like it was moving slower, and also part of it was they kept on showing stuff that I just wasn't like. That's not why I'm going to get an iPhone. Right. I think that's the hardest part with any of these is you want to hit all these different industries, but a lot of it I was like, I don't really care.
Yeah, and apparently investors are not moving the stock price of Apple yet. It's kind of staying flat. Okay, let's talk about the Apple Watch. I mean, this Apple Watch racket is clearly just bringing in hordes of huge amounts of money. These bands that they keep talking about, they're making a ton of money on watch bands. That's why they spent so much time at the very beginning of the event saying, well, here's a band, there's a band, here's another band that wraps around your wrist twice, buy more bands. You can buy, like, one of the great things about the Apple Watch is you can take off the band and put on another band. And if you have multiple Apple Watches with multiple bands, you'd imagine come on, it's so much money involved in these products.
It could be. I mean, I don't know whether they have a licensing set up, so because, I mean, there's also a lot of third-party bands. There's a lot of people selling them on it. You go to Amazon and do iWatch band, and there's a lot of them that are very inexpensive that you can order. I've ordered a couple of them. I will say that that I've stuck with the Apple-made ones so far. Haven't been that impressed with the ones that I bought, but I think that will grow as a market too. I think part of that is making money, but I think the real issue there is really allowing people to. Apple historically has really been like, this is the only way it's going to look.
Yeah.
And so I think that part of this is you can customize it to however you want to look. And I think it has more to do for Apple, less to do with money and more to, for you to figure out exactly your expression of it and having it be a form of your expression and pushing you to realize that it's not just the way you bought it, it's however you want to keep on adding to it.
Because in fact, wristwatches are purchased that way. You're looking to assert your individuality, your identity,
And this is how see I just assert mine by mine's black with a black thing that doesn't get matched.
But that's your personality. That's your identity.
It is.
Business.
It all is like
you might want to jump in the ocean at some point and not worry about it. That's your thing. Okay, well, we have another guest who's joined us now via the miracle of Skype, Allison Sheridan of NozillaCast. Welcome to the this special, very special episode of MacBreak Weekly, Allison.
Hey, I got my Apple fangirl shirt on. There it is.
Nice.
You can see it above the lower third.
Nice.
So I dressed for the occasion, Well,
thank you for doing that. What did you think of this event overall?
I thought it was pretty cool. I really, really wish that I needed an iPad Pro. I wish I wanted one and needed one because it sure seems really cool. I was shocked at the, and let me use my fangirl words here, is the low price. For an Apple product, I really thought that thing was coming in like $1,500.
I figured the low end would be $999.
Right. Yep. No, I definitely expected it to be more expensive than it turned out to be. It's interesting.
And the 3 price points were $799.
How well we're trained.
Yes, I know.
Like wow.
Lower our expectations.
You look at like the iWatch. I'm like, when did I ever think that I'm going cheap by spending $400 on a watch?
Exactly. Exactly. So it's $799, $949, and $1,079. Those are the price points for the iPad Pro, and of course the Pencil is $99, the Smart Keyboard is $169, and I thought the iPad Pro is on inexpensive side and the accessories were on the expensive side. That was my general impression.
You mean the Surface Pro keyboard for the iPad Pro? Is that what you mean?
Yes, exactly. Brought to you by Microsoft.
Exactly. I just wish I had a right brain and had some, actual artistic talent. I'm completely, if you open it up here, this side's empty. It's all left brain for me. So I can't use it for any of the artistic stuff. But I use my iPad almost exclusively as a TV. I mean, that's how I watch you guys. I watch it. I carry it around everywhere I go. I take it to the gym and everything. And 12.9 inch, that's pretty big. I don't know if I can carry that around either. That'd be
a hard one to put up at the gym on the cycle. That's
watch me. I'm doing it. I'm gonna have the pen there too at the gym. It's like one with the pencil. Exactly. All right, so well, let's take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the event, and then maybe we'll even talk about some other Apple-y stuff. One of our sponsors today is Squarespace. Squarespace, of course, is the very best place to build a website, because they'll not only, whether it's a blog, you're going to sell things, whatever it is you're going to do with a website, because they'll do the hosting. Their hosting is phenomenal, and no matter how much traffic you throw at your website or the world throws at you, if you get slash-dotted or you start trending somewhere, they will scale up on the fly to make sure that your site never goes down. Now, it starts at $8 a month, which is, in my opinion, a ridiculously low price for what they give you. And one of the things that they give you that's very, very rare in this world is the ability to have beautiful designed websites, because they have these templates that are just amazing. They're designed by brilliant designers, and the combination of the high quality of their design with the high quality of their engineering and sort of management of this platform and the low price is a killer combination. Responsive designs, they scale to mobile devices. Of course, most of your audience is always going to come in on a mobile device, so you have to look great on any sort of phone, any sort of tablet. Otherwise, you just don't have the right kind of website, and Squarespace just builds it right in. And they're now offering $100 in AdWords credit for business and commerce customers, so that's a great value. Start your free trial, no credit card required, at squarespace.com. And make sure you use the promo code MacBreak, and that will get you 10% off. That's MacBreak, all one word. And it'll also let you show your support for this show. Squarespace, build it beautiful. All right, well, this was billed as a kind of, I guess Apple billed it as a Siri thing, but the rumor mongers build this as a, can you hear me? I think I just lost. I'm still here. It's me. It's my earpiece. Build it as like the big iPhone. Obviously we're looking for this new iPhone, the iPhone 6S, 6S Plus. They sort of skirted a controversy when they came out with this, the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, because of Bendgate. And I don't know how much. I still don't have a really solid handle on how much of Bendgate was fabricated by grandstanding vloggers, and how much of it was a real problem with the phone. And it got to the point where innocent civilians were starting to question whether their own phone, they were seeing bent phones when they weren't even there. I mean, it was a kind of a crazy thing. Apple sort of got us through it, and everybody stopped talking about it. But now they came out with the new version with this Apple Custom Alloy 7000 aluminum, as they called it. We're all familiar with 7000 aluminum, or lots of people are. It's very, very strong stuff. But do you think that Bendgate led directly to this
I think
program to let's bolster this thing?
I think they did. I think when people actually tested it, they found that it was stiff or stiffer than any other phone the same size. It was not really any weaker than other phones. I think that this just allows them to say, well, it's got even more resiliency. I mean, anything's going with enough force is going to bend in half. Yeah. So. And I don't know. I don't understand the whole let's put my phone in my back pocket. I'm not a put my phone in my back pocket kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I've never had anything that I bent. I will say that as these phones got bigger, they're obviously a lot more flexible than the old iPhones. But even those I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Put in that kind of position.
Mike, I'm an actual mechanical engineer, so as though I could speak with authority on this. I mean, if you make something thin and you make a divot in it where it's thinner and it has stress points in the corners, it's going to have problems. Whether or not this was a real big deal or not, I don't think it was. As Alex said, I think it was a Consumer Report. Somebody did a bunch of testing with the phones and did show that it wasn't any worse than anything else. But like you guys said, the thinner it is and the strength to weight ratio of the materials that you choose can affect whether or not it's going to bend. So I believe some phones did bend. I don't believe it was a large number, but it's just so much fun to make fun of them when this stuff happens, right?
It certainly is, and some of us make a good living at it.
Yeah, exactly.
So what did you think of all the photo stuff? I mean, there's a bunch of things here to talk about. There's the fact that they upped the megapixel count. They have I guess they're saying that they further improved the rear camera flash to adjust for the ambient light in the room. Didn't they advertise that last time?
Yeah, I think they just made it better.
They made it better.
Yeah, it was better. But they have now a front flash,
which is the screen,
which I thought was. There have been third-party apps that do things like that, but I think this, built into the actual camera makes a lot of sense.
Live photos. That was nobody predicted live photos. It's kind of an odd feature. I think
you have coined it though. It is the Harry Potter feature.
It is the Harry Potter feature, absolutely. And I'm obviously I love one of the things that I love to do. As you know, I'm a huge Google Plus fan, which has auto awesomes, and I'm a huge iPhone fan, which has the ability to just rattle off 30 photos. What I typically do sometimes, I'm so wasteful of those photos that I'm never going to use that I'll hold the camera really still and I'll hold the thing and I'll keep taking pictures until I feel like I've gone through 10 of them without moving at all. And then I'll find those 10 and then I'll save those 10 and they're auto-uploaded to Google Plus, and Google Plus creates what they used to call an auto awesome. And it's a wonderful effect. It's similar to this effect where you have like subtle movement for a short period of time. And so I actually think that if the world had an easy way to take little animations that were subtle, they would do it. And I think, we were talking during the live broadcast of, Andy was saying, well, is this a gimmick that people aren't going to jump on? I think this is going to be really popular simply because I feel that I've been doing something kind of sort of like that, and I find it very gratifying. It's like a new medium almost.
And it could be, it's kind of half of half a Vine.
Yeah, exactly.
So we keep on getting
too long.
Our attention span has gone from like 7 seconds. What are you going to do with 7 seconds? You got to get it down to 3 seconds.
That's a funny point because our attention spans are too fickle for a still photo, so it can't be a still photo. But we don't have time to watch a video.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
This is the solution.
It's funny you would bring up how long our attention span is. I remember a brilliant man named Alex Lindsay doing a speech many years ago where he talked about our attention span was 5 to 7 minutes because it was the time distance between commercials. But I guess it's gotten even shorter now.
We're down to 5 to 7 seconds. Yeah.
I have two questions about it. And one of them is, are people going to lose their ever-loving minds because this means that Apple is looking at what you're doing a second and a half before you push the button? Aren't they going to go crazy about that?
Yes.
They are for no reason. I mean, it's just, someone's going to complain about it, and it's going to be this big thing. But we just have to, there's a lot of other software that buffers. There's cameras that do, professional cameras and consumer cameras that for a long time have done this buffering technique where you can take pictures from the past, kind of thing. And so this isn't a new technology. It's just new for a phone. A lot of them will buffer up to 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
Yeah. Dash cams do this as a matter of course. That's how dash cams work. You're driving around Russia.
Right.
And then you see some crazy Russian scene. You push a button to capture what already happened.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a great feature.
But when you do a dash cam, you're actively saying, I would like to record my driving of things that I don't predict are going to happen. Mm-hmm. When you're just picking up your phone to take a picture, you're like, okay, get that slime off your face, whatever, you put your clothes on. That's a little bit different, I think.
Well, there have been a lot of problems on eBay where people take a picture of that tea kettle and then they post it and they're like, oh, I'm going to sell my tea kettle. And then people notice that in the reflection, the person isn't wearing any clothing, right? So that sort of thing is going to happen here where they're going to take a picture and then immediately drop the camera while the video is still recording and you're going to discover, no clothing. The Anthony Weiner effect. So this is It's
I
going
know it's going to happen too. You're just like,
absolutely.
Oh no.
Now that's a new medium.
But they will have a choice. It's not like they're posting this. Well, they could be posting it straight to Facebook, but I would look at it. I think all we can say is look at it. Just look at it for a second before you post it.
That's right. Exactly. It's actually going to engender a new behavior when taking photos of group photos, people photos, every kind of photo, because you have to,
But that was back. There was there would be people who would crop their photos too and realize that it was cropped on the web, not actually cropping the photo. So if someone hacked the site, there was more to the photo than.
Yeah.
I won't mention who that happened to. It wasn't me, but it was.
Yeah, sure. It was your friend, right?
My second question, and maybe Alex can answer this, is what is the format of that file? He very specifically said it's not video. He said it's a photo. So.
Yeah, I don't know what the format of the file is. I think that if you export it, it'll look like a photo. I mean, it'll just be the photo. Yeah. My guess is, from what he said about making it small, is that what they're going to do, because this is actually a pretty easy problem in some ways, but internally they probably have, it's probably just a folder. But the interesting thing about it is it's most likely not a minute and a half of just pure images. What it is the photo you took as what we would call a keyframe, and then it just does what we call temporal compression either direction, which means it only pays attention to the pixels that changed. So it's in that, and so when you see something, if you ever rewind through an H.264 video, and you see suddenly all these big blocks because they were looking at something before them, as the keyframe. And so of course your image is fully there, but all the images on either side will probably look pretty blocky because it's only saving the information that changed. So especially if you're holding it still, you won't, a lot of that stays the same, which makes the photo a lot smaller.
The effect might be like a cinematograph, I think they used to call them, or they still do call them, or something like that, where part of the picture is animated and the rest is
and it'll be interesting. And there's a company that does. So there's a model that has a app that does that on the phone. But there's a lot. I think it'll be interesting. I mean, I think that it'll be interesting on when you look at putting it on your Apple TV. Seeing these little things that are. Little moving things that are going. So instead of having just photos that you're zooming in and out of, you get these little glimpses of what's there. I'm guessing that it doesn't capture audio. Yeah. Because
they showed audio.
Did they show audio too?
Yeah, because he had a waterfall and you could hear the waterfall.
Oh, right. Yeah. That is a little weird. I mean, trickier. I think that's more concerning from my perspective, is capturing audio. Partially because there are some in the United States. There's some serious legal ramifications of capturing audio without telling people that you're capturing audio. You can do all the video you want, but you can start capturing audio and it becomes more complex.
Plus the embarrassment factor where you're going to post a picture and then when you play it, it's going to be like, just take the picture, you idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Or someone going off about Obama, and you're just like, oh. Yeah, you didn't have to do that.
It's entertainment, and it's going to be entertaining. Now, Allison, go ahead.
I did want to elaborate on what you just said. So is it going to be slower to take that first photo? When you lose a second and a half?
No, because it should be that it's as soon as you open the photo app, my guess is that it's already, if that mode is on, it's already grabbing onto the last second and a half. And so and so as soon as you take the photo, it should react the same way.
But in order to do it well,
it's already
that's my guess.
You open the camera, it's already talking, it's already looking, listening.
Yes.
Ready to go.
And dumping it.
I guess it always does that, right? Because you see it on the display.
I mean, it reminds me kind of the Amazon Fire Phone, which is now no longer in stock on the Amazon store and may never again be in stock. That has a feature where it would capture. So it had a feature that you push a single button, it would capture audio, and so if music was playing, it would tell you what the music was. It would capture video. If you pointed at a product, it would identify the product. If you pointed at a landmark, it would identify the landmark. But the problem was, let's say you just wanted to order some more Kellogg's cornflakes from Amazon or whatever. You press that button, pointed at that box of cereal, it would also capture the audio and upload it to Amazon servers, without you even thinking about it, without you wanting it or anything like that. It kind of reminds me of that.
Well, if you think of how Amazon's voice activated, I can't think of the little tower at the moment.
Echo, the Echo.
Or you think about some of the Samsung TVs. They're taking all that audio and passing it back up, and that to me seems frightening.
Yeah, and there's no information about when they're going to delete it or anything.
Yeah, they haven't. I'm sure somewhere in line 483 out of your EULA, there's something that you said okay to that said we're going to take all your voice.
We're never going to delete it, is what it says in there. I've read the whole thing.
I will say that it's not by accident that the TV room in the new house is now very far away from everything else in the house. So like, I'm just like, I just want it living over in its own world now.
That's funny. Now, Allison, there were a couple of like very aggressive moves that Apple made against Android and the carriers. One of them was the Move from Android app, which basically, if you're moving from an Android phone, you download this app, install it, and it will help grab all the stuff on your Android phone and deliver it lovingly into the iPhone, where you will live forever because, of course, no reverse app is possible. What did you make of that? And what did you make of the iPhone upgrade program, where starting at $32 a month, you could just always have a fresh new phone no matter what going forward? What did you think about these?
Well, as you staged that question, I'm reminded of someone who told me once that sarcasm is never necessary, but I believe in it at all times. I thought that app already existed. I remembered there being something that would allow you an app that would allow you to suck everything out of your Android phone and into the iPhone Ready. Did I misremember that?
I think it might have been a third-party app that did it. But I think that what's interesting about this is not something, I think with the sandboxing, I don't think that Android could do the same thing back.
Okay.
You know, with sandboxing, I think that you couldn't move from iOS to Android, but with the way that Android is so much more open, you can write an app that can go into absolutely everything, pull all the stuff information out, and put it in there. But it's something, I don't think that it could do everything that this one will be able to do with a third-party app, because without it being something Apple made because of sandboxing. And I may be wrong. Yeah.
So what you may be thinking of, Allison, is that the news about this particular app emerged much earlier this year. So it was called Move to iOS back then, and so I see reports as early as early June.
So I just read too many rumor things, I guess.
Exactly.
I'm not amazed that Apple would do this. I'm more amazed at companies that build their software tools so that you can export your data. I mean, I love that companies do that, and it's fantastic for the user. But if I were to build something, I'd build it so you can suck from somebody else and pull into my stuff and never let you back out.
Well,
That's the way I would do it.
I think that the problem with that is that there are companies like I would be afraid. There's certain things that we use like Slack, and I need to know that my company generates between 6,000 and 8,000 Slack messages a week. Yep. And I get this little data thing, and I want to know that I can pull those out, if I needed to, and so on and so forth. And I think that Google has actually, to their credit, has been very, very good about making sure that you're not scared to put your data into it, because you can get it out. Because if you feel like you can never get it out, it's a one-way street. You may not use the product because you're afraid of it being a black hole. So I think that in early days, I think that was very common to have kind of black holes, but then businesses especially stopped using it.
Yeah.
So I guess the way it is now, if you've got an app from Apple that allows you to suck the data out of your phone and put it into your new iPhone, if you still use the Google services, you could then suck them back out. I mean, they would still exist in the Google framework, right? You'd still have your Google Drive and your Google Mail and all that. So you aren't really losing what you had. Think that's a true statement?
You're not losing it from the Android. You're just moving it somewhere else.
What's that? Is it really moving?
It's not moving it. It's just copying it.
Well, it might not even be copying it, right? If it's saying like, okay, this is going to bring your Gmail, well, I guess it's a question is what all is it going to bring over? I mean, is it going to go search for apps that are the equivalent apps?
I think it's going to find the apps that would be the same apps is my guess. And my other guess is that it'll take all the data from those, so your contacts, all those other things are most likely going to get moved over.
Okay. So your second question was about this $32 a month plan. When the last iPhone came out, I went through and did the math, made a spreadsheet, as an engineer would, of course, to figure out where the crossover points were between the AT&T Next plan that gives you pay monthly, and then you've actually paid off the phone after, I think it's 20 months. And I found that at 18 months, it paid off the phone. So it was a better deal than doing the subsidized plan. I find this whole thing interesting to start sucking people into a $32 a month plan. Realize when you say $32 a month, that's just for the phone, right?
Yeah.
You still have to pay an access fee and for data and all that. So you are talking a trunkload of money. It's not our water bill. I think it's our gas bill is actually around $30 a month. So I can cook for what I can have a phone, and a hot water heater and all that stuff. So, I'm sorry, a water heater, not a hot water heater. I've been corrected on that. Yep. So that's a lot of money, and it preys right on our desire to be in debt and have the newest, coolest thing at all time. And it's dangerous.
My only argument about that is that that's just what we've been doing. So until we unlocked the phone, we were making a payment that we didn't even know existed. So when we said it's not $900, it's $400 or $500. That
just lying.
That delta we were making payments on. We may not think of it that way, but that's what was actually happening. So I think that we've been doing that. We've been sucked into that for a long time. Now that we're going to Unlocked, I think the challenge is that now the real number is very large. The real number for a 6S Plus is $950 or something like that. And so now everyone has their eye. The sunglasses have been pulled off, or the rose-colored glasses have been pulled off. They suddenly see it, and they're like, okay, no, but here's some more sunglasses. You can put them back on. Yeah. Don't want you to lose your mind there. It can be a little payment again. And so I think we've just swapped one pair of glasses for another. But I think that for a lot of people, I pay for my phones right out, so I have them. But I think that. I think we're seeing all the manufacturers all the carriers are moving down this path. T-Mobile, I think, was the first one out, and then I think that there's been AT&T and Verizon, and I think that is and I do think that Apple doesn't want to lose that direct connection to the most people are still buying their phones from the Apple Store. And I think that Apple would prefer to, even while they're willing to let everybody sell, I think they prefer, especially in the United States, to keep it that way, because I think that Apple eventually pushes everybody off the cliff.
I also think that it has to be said that the carrier model that we currently use is worse than you described, even because let's say you spend $25 a month for your iPhone, in addition, and it's buried, it's hidden inside your wireless plan, and then you go 2 years, and then you go 2 years and a month, 2 years. You keep paying that $25 long after it's paid off. Right. So lots of people keep up with it. But I also think that this is a big, reverse engineering how Apple thinks about the world. One of the problems they're trying to solve here is that the current system incentivizes upgrading every 2 years. And that is unconscionable from Apple's point of view. Right. As of today, the iPhone 6 they don't even want to think about it. And the idea that people are still using these older phones probably drives them crazy. It's just unacceptable. And so this is a plan that will get everybody, especially the most, the biggest fanboys, to get the latest and greatest right away, all the time, never have, it's like in a perfect world, nobody would ever use an obsolete iPhone.
Well, and I think that, for a lot of people, I think that payment isn't that painful. I mean, that payment is, and of course, that's the base payment. My guess is that if you get the blown out 6 Plus S with 128, that's probably closer to $50 a month. Right. But if you look at that payment and you look at having it for 2 years, I think that, but you're getting a new phone every year. And then you take all those phones that are coming in that Apple now controls that flow. Yeah. And then they funnel those all to emerging world countries. I mean, that's what's going to happen. They're not going to get recycled. They're going to they are going to get recycled, but they're not going to get torn apart. They'll be reused. They're going to be reused. Right. And that, again, depresses the demand for Android in the emerging world. So that it works on a whole bunch of levels. Yeah, it really does. It also, I think, highlights a fact about the importance and centrality of smartphones in our lives. Let's say worst case scenario, it's going to be $60 a month for the high end, right? That's $2 a day. Do you think any of us believes that we get $2 of value per day out of our phones? I mean, we get $150 worth of value out of our phones every day. People would rather leave their house without their keys or even their kids than their phones, right? I mean, they're so important. They keep us in touch with everything. They entertain us. They inform us. Like phones are like so important to us. We joke, $2 a day. we joke when there's certain countries on the way to Africa, that you stop in that like in Uganda that's really slow, like on the tarmac. Uganda's actually pretty fast, but in the tarmac, and you're like, you're like, I'm on the ground. I should be able to get my mail, and you can't. Wait until you get to Istanbul.
Mike,
it's like a long line at the methadone clinic. Yeah. What were you saying, Allison?
Mike, I know you were kidding around about Apple thinking it's just horrible that anybody would be using an iPhone 6, and I'm sure you didn't mean that since they have made iOS 8, and I think iOS 9 is going to go all the way back to the iPhone 4S. But I think it's a terrific point that Alex is making about the flow down of these phones. Yep. And I think in a lot of ways, this new pricing scheme is actually going to hurt iPhone and the Samsung Galaxy phones, because those are going to be so high priced that now your Huawei's and your middle range Motorola's and those kind of phones are going to be a lot more popular, because you're going to go, well, wait a minute, this one's $200, that one's $600, $800, $900. This is like 90% as good for a quarter of the money. I think I'll go that way.
I also think, I think one of the subtle ways that this helps this idea, this trickle-down theory that you have, is that there'll be more people, I think, under this program who will have the latest and greatest. I think that's clear. And that helps establish the premium nature of Apple's brand, which helps the desirability of secondhand iPhones. So people can walk around in whatever country they live in, the US or anywhere else, and even if they've got a 2-year-old phone, they can say, I've got an iPhone. You've heard of the iPhone? I have an iPhone. It's like it's a premium brand.
It's definitely seen as, there are, in most of the emerging world countries that we've worked, iPhones are definitely seen as a luxury that people use to show off. So I think that is, stuff that people are interested in. But I think that also, if you look at the scale that Apple's kind of created from the 5S, which is a very, very good phone, to the current phones, that whole top market is really hard to compete with. With all the features that they've added, with all the the stability and everything else, and it really makes it hard. I think we're seeing Samsung constantly hitting up against this wall of there just isn't that much space in that upper market, and there is no money in the bottom market. Like that. There's a lot of sales. There's a lot of margin. There's just no margin. So there's lots of money. There's lots of bulk that you can get out there, but how much they're making per phone is razor thin. Yeah, and that makes it very complicated. It's very hard to stay in business when you don't have any upper market. And Apple is just really making it difficult. Whether you're a netbook, which has been largely wiped out. The iPad Pro makes it very, very difficult to compete. And now they have iPad Minis as low as $269. So now they're basically Apple saying from $269 up to $1,500, we're going to kind of make that one really a difficult place to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's hard to get over.
Okay, and it looks
Alex,
like
I wanted to ask you, Alex, when you were talking about your, you talk about Africa a lot. I was in India recently and tried to use my iPhone 6 there, and nobody there had ever heard of a nano SIM card. Do you run into that in Africa at all?
They cut them. You walk into MTN, they got a little cutter, and they just go. Yeah. It takes them like 15 seconds. They just go, oh, and then they go click, and then they just shove it in, and boom, it's working. It's in Rwanda at least. They just like boom.
Mm-hmm.
We suggested that, and we were in Delhi. It's not like we were out in the bush yet, and it was just like, huh? What are you talking about? They didn't even. We showed it to them, and they're like, and we had a translator, so it wasn't just us.
Yeah. And then Indians come to the United States, and we've never heard of dual SIM card phones. So confusion is it's a world of confusion out there. It looks like we have Harry McCracken, the technologizer, on the phone there. How you doing, Harry? Thank you for joining us today.
I'm great. I just stepped out of the event. Good to talk to you guys. And
it sounds like you spent a lot of time trying out the demos and fondling some of the things. What jumped out at you as you emerged from the building there? And you work right across the street, so it's not exactly a long trek here. But what jumps out at you after having touched some of the products there? What surprised you? What thrilled you? What disappointed you? What do you think about what you experienced when you tried some of the products in the demo room?
Well, I'm personally especially interested in the iPad Pro, just because I've been using an iPad for quite a long time to try to get useful stuff done. And this is an iPad designed for productivity, and there have been all these third-party keyboard cases and third-party styluses for the iPad, and Apple is finally doing them. So the single thing I was most excited about doing was getting some hands-on time with those, and I just got a little bit, so you can't really render a final verdict, but they look pretty impressive from the time I did get with them.
Yeah, and you did try the pencil.
Yes. I'm still a little unclear as to exactly what technology Apple is using. It sounds like it's not at all like Wacom, which is kind of the gold standard in styluses, but it worked well, that the pressure sensitivity is good, and for the first time with an iPad, you can rest your palm on the screen without worrying about messing up your input.
And what can you tell us about the size, the weight, the handling of the pencil? What did that feel like to use in terms of just everyday use?
It felt quite good. The weird thing about a lot of styluses for the iPads is, at least for me, they're too short. This one is nice and long. It kind of feels like a pencil. I still don't know how long it lasts in a charge, but when you do need to recharge it, you pull off the cap and there's a lightning connector so you can charge it easily.
I noticed the guy doing the demo was holding it really far away from the tip, and I wondered whether he was doing that because he was afraid of accidental input with his wrist or something. That made me a little nervous.
From what little time I got with it, that didn't seem to be an issue. I made a point of resting my hand and my arm on the screen because that usually trips me up when doing art on the iPad, and with this, it does a good job of noticing you're doing that and only paying attention to the pen input.
And how'd the iPhone 6S or 6S Plus feel to you? Did anything about it feel different from the current generation of iPhones? Was it, with the materials, the surfaces, or any of that stuff any different?
Well, if you just glance at them, you're not going to be able to tell them apart. As usual, every other year, they kept the industrial design. And the one thing you can get an impression of pretty quickly is the 3D touch, which is the new version of Force Touch, the pressure-sensitive screen. And on the MacBook and on the Apple Watch, it's the kind of thing where if you don't make a point of using it, you might not even know it's there because it's just not doing stuff that's all that valuable. It seems like a phone is sort of the ideal surface for a pressure-sensitive screen, and you can do things like if you're on the home screen, you can press down just a little bit on an app icon and get shortcuts that take you directly to features within an app, and that functionality is available to third parties, so any app can support it. And I really feel like it's a little bit like what right-clicking has done with mice for decades. But that's fine because right-clicking is one of the most useful things ever invented, and it's nice to see a similar idea come to the touchscreen.
What is the difference exactly between Force Touch and 3D Touch?
As far as I can tell, they just gave it a nicer name. I mean, Force Touch sounds a little intimidating. Force is not a pleasant word. 3D is cooler, and it also conveys the fact that you can press a little bit or a lot, and you get two different kinds of functionality. Like if you're in the Messages app and there's a link, if you touch slightly, you get a preview whatever that link is, and if you press a little bit harder, it takes you to Safari or whatever.
Did that feel natural, Harry? Watching, since we didn't have any kind of physical feedback, watching it looked like, wow, this is really confusing. But I'm guessing that it probably felt more natural than it looked.
I would want to spend some time with that before I came to any firm conclusions. But, with the Apple Watch, it's a little bit tricky because your finger is covering the whole screen anyway, so it's hard to see stuff. And on the MacBook, you're not touching the screen, you're touching the trackpad. The iPhone's a nice balance because the screen's big enough so you can see what you're doing, but it's direct manipulation rather than indirect like a trackpad.
And one last question, Harry. The Apple TV, is this going to do it for Apple? Have they finally cracked the code here with the Apple TV? Is this going to be a runaway hit, or is it more of an incremental thing that's only going to thrill existing Apple TV users?
On paper, it seems pretty comparable in a lot of ways, especially to Android TV and to something like NVIDIA's Shield, but also to Amazon's Fire TV. I really feel like this is sort of a little bit probably of an audition for this device, because the thing that might be more transformative is if Apple comes up with a really good streaming service that starts to compete with cable. And all the indications are that even though they had no news about this today, they are working on lining up those deals, and at some point you will have such a service. Right now it looks really slick, but it looks like it could end up being the best of the streaming boxes. But in terms of basic functionality, it's doing stuff that other folks are doing as well. So I didn't see any breakthrough in terms of the concept in this first iteration.
Although go ahead, Allison.
One thing I thought it did sounded like it might do better. The Fire TV, from what I understand, when you use the search, it only searches inside Amazon. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that was my understanding. And Tim said that the search on Siri would go through iTunes, Netflix, Hulu, Showtime, and HBO.
You know, Fire TV started out being super Amazon-centric. I think that they've done software updates. They've loosened up a little bit on that. Okay. But it is nice to see Apple doing this universal search, because I think Apple skeptics always get a little paranoid about the notion that Apple is going to have a walled garden and prevent you from getting other stuff. But with this, it looks like if something is available on Netflix and on iTunes, and you subscribe to Netflix, it will tell you about that, so you don't end up buying it from iTunes if you don't need to.
Oh, good.
It sounds like the fire department is on the way to put out that iPad Pro that caught on fire.
Yeah, we're right here in the noisiest section of downtown San Francisco.
Yeah, well, hang on to your wallet. All right, Harry McCracken, thank you so much for joining us today. Harry McCracken is the Technologizer at technologizer.com and also the tech editor at Fast Company. Thanks for joining us from the event there at the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium.
Thanks, folks. It was fun.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, there he goes. And let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up our show coverage and then a little bit more news, and then we'll be good to go. One of our sponsors today is Braintree. Braintree is the solution if you're looking for a mobile solution for mobile payments. It's a way to go. You can integrate this into your app or your website in probably about 30, 35 minutes, something like that, I'm told. I am not a developer. I'm just told this.
You're told?
I am told.
Do you always do what you're told?
I pretty much usually do. Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I make the big bucks. No, the Braintree is such a great payment solution because not only, it's important to make it easy for yourself, but what's really important is to make payments easy for the people that you are trying to thrill with your product or service. You want them to pay for it. They want to pay for it, and Braintree helps make that happen. And of course, some of the biggest companies in Silicon Valley use it. It's a great service, and best of all, it used to be in the old days, you'd have to go from payment provider to payment provider, slogging, and you'd roll out your payment slowly. Oh, we support this, and 3 months later, oh, now we support this other payment type.
I'm old enough to remember we had to write our own. We had to write our own. Yeah. So we had to know how to actually integrate with the credit card processor and the gateway and all that fun stuff, and it's so easy. And this is Braintree is just crazy simple.
Yeah, crazy simple. And it's simple for everybody. It's the way to go. You've got to use Braintree if you're accepting payments on a mobile device.
It's real money, too. I mean, this is, there are many places I won't go shop because it's not as easy as Amazon.
Yeah.
Literally just it just has to be easy. And this is, flat out, it's not just easy to develop for, but the big thing is that it's easy to use. Because you lose sales because people don't want to go through it.
That's absolutely true. Braintree gives you a full stack payment solution, support for all payment types your customers might want. You can start accepting PayPal, Apple Pay, Bitcoin, Venmo, credit cards, so much more, all with a single integration across all platforms with superior fraud protection, customer service, and super, super fast payouts. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to BraintreePayments.com/MacBreak. And now we have the one and only Christina Warren standing by at the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium. Hey, Christina, how's it going? Are you having a good Apple day?
They have pink iPhones.
Oh my God! and Apple Watches.
Let's screw talking about anything else. We have pink iPhones.
But it's the new Apple pink iPhone technology that they're using. That's what's important.
Yes. I mean, they're calling it rose gold. That's the innovation. But it's pink and it's amazing, and I want one.
So what jumped out at you from this event? I know you always have a really unique perspective on these events, and of course, everything's faster, everything's better, and they have rose gold on a couple of the platforms. What really jumped out? What was the biggest surprise of the event for you?
How much I won an iPad Pro. I was not expecting to win an iPad Pro. I went into this being like, yeah, whatever, guys. I'm over the iPad, and I'm not over the iPad. I love my iPad, but I was not really expecting to be jazzed. I was expecting to be really excited by the Apple TV. And look, maybe when the Apple TV service, which we know is going to comes out, that'll be amazing, right? But for right now, I'm really psyched about that iPad Pro. I mean, obviously the Force Touch stuff on the iPhone too. I think those are the two big things. 3D Touch, sorry, not Force Touch, 3D Touch on the iPhone and the iPad Pro. Damn, I mean, they are doing some really interesting things.
Yeah, Force Touch sounds like some kind of creepy Star Wars porn parody or something like that. Now,
It does. 3D Touch is a little bit better.
It is much. Yeah, it is significantly better. Now, Christina, you're like the third or fourth person who said exactly what you just said, which is that the surprise was how much you want the iPad Pro. Was it the pencil? Was it the speakers? What about the iPad Pro that they showed made you?
So I think what it is that, we've kind of gone through this weird transition period with the iPad. And you and I have talked a lot about this on Tech News Today. Tune in every Friday to see me co-host with Mike. That's
nice
a plug for another Twitch show. That works, right?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Well, we've talked a lot about how, first, everyone underestimated the market for the iPad exponentially. And then it was successful and everyone overestimated the market. And then it sort of settled in. And I feel like what's happened, and we've seen this kind of trend, is that the first use case of the iPad, which was basically as this, bigger phone, this device that you use for play, frankly, this consumption device, that era is kind of over because the phones are so much bigger and you can do other stuff. And I mean, it's still great for that. But, if I've got a 5.5 inch phone, I don't necessarily need a tablet to have my experiences kind of, on the couch. I can have like a new Apple TV for that. I can have my phone for that. So instead, what's starting to happen, and Microsoft was honestly really ahead here with the Surface line, is that they are getting into the creation aspect. And I think this is the first time, especially seeing some of the apps they showed off, where you can actually say, this is a use case for, this device. Because I kept asking myself, I was like, this thing, with as powerful as it is, they're saying it's desktop class CPU, 80% faster than most portable PCs sold last year, 90% faster graphics. I'm thinking, okay, so why is this not running OS 10? Why is this running iOS? And part of that, I think, comes down to, as you mentioned earlier, the stylus. I think that the dual app mode, some of the other stuff, and just the fact that touch, frankly, does add a different component. That's something I don't think Microsoft quite got right. They were early to realize we would want to use these tablet devices for real content creation. They missed the mark, I think, on getting the interface correct. So I think that having two separate interfaces still makes sense, but we're kind of entering into this era where maybe the future of computing, your next MacBook will eventually be an iPad, and this is the first one I've seen that looks like it's going to bridge that gap.
I absolutely agree with you there, and it's clear that Apple has been preparing for this transition for, 6 years now or something like that? I mean, it's really every new iteration of OS 10 is more tablety and touchy, but we're definitely getting there.
No, we're definitely getting there, and I think that's what's so exciting. And then even seeing things like the stylus, Steve Jobs, everyone's going to make fun of it, including myself, who says, 5 years ago, he says, if you see a stylus, they blew it. Now they released an Apple Pencil. But I will say that what they're doing with the stylus is what a lot of professionals have wanted them to do for a long time, including Adobe, who was on stage. I remember meeting with Adobe when they were still doing, what's the name of the two hardware devices they released for the iPad? They released like the slide-in rule, I guess. I can't remember what they were called, but they released a stylus that they did with Adronet, and they did like a ruler sort of thing. And when I talked to them, people from the Adobe Labs X team, Adobe X team, I think is what they were called. This was a couple of years ago. They talked about the fact that they really wanted to be able to do this additional detail on the iPad because so many artists were using those tools, but they were limited because they didn't have the hardware access. And so what this is letting them do is that Adobe doesn't have to make the stylus, but they can make software that can support the stylus and do amazing things. And that's opening up things that you wouldn't use a stylus for in the traditional context. When Steve Jobs was saying, if you see a stylus, they blew it, he meant in the, 1.0 tablet era of the Windows XP tablets, right? Or the Palm Pilot or the Trio. He didn't mean in the context, I don't think, of if you're wanting to do really, pressure-sensitive artwork and you're wanting to do really specific modeling, or yes, maybe, as Microsoft loves to show off with the Surface, taking notes. Although what's interesting is I tried the palm detection. It was really good, and I think it would be fine for writing notes on it, but really it's going to be one of those things, I think, for people who primarily use their iPad to create stuff. But I could also see, especially with some of the stuff built into the Apple Pencil, along, the lines of doing video editing and doing photo editing in a way that you wouldn't expect to do it beforehand. So again, I think that that's kind of why it makes sense for them to have this now, because they're now kind of finally closing that loop, and that convergence device that a lot of us wanted the original iPad to be 5 years ago is kind of here now.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to let you go, Christina. Thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah,
Can I ask you a question really quick?
Go for it.
Sorry, there's a question I couldn't ask Harry. So, Christina, I have my purse right here, and I carry my iPad in it, and I take it to the gym to watch my version of TV. Am I going to be able to do that with a 12-inch iPad Pro, 12.9?
Not unless you have a really big bag.
Okay.
It is thin enough, but because it's 12.9 inches, I mean, you would really need like a laptop back. It's a little bit bigger than the MacBook, the new MacBook, from what it seems like. So if you can fit the new MacBook in your purse, then you might be okay. But realistically speaking, probably not. But this is a great excuse to buy a new back.
And that's all we really care about, right?
It's going to be Apple's next business.
I mean, honestly, right? I mean, that's what. Totally, yeah. This is an excuse to buy a new bag, and again, we have pink phones, you guys. We have pink iPhones. That's really all anybody needs to take away from this. We have pink iPhones
and pink straps as well. Now, Christina Warren, you live in Brooklyn, yes. So you're unfamiliar with good pizza. So you should go to Pizzetta 211 in San Francisco, and now that you're in California, you can have some real pizza.
You watch your mouth. You watch your mouth. But I will check that out. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Well, have fun at XOXO. I know you're headed up there to Oregon. Christina Warren is Mashable Senior Tech Correspondent and co-anchor on Friday on Tech News Today. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today, Christina.
Of course. Bye, Mike. Bye, guys.
All right, Christina Warren. Okay, so I think we can pretty much wrap up the coverage of the show itself. Great event, lots of great products. Proof is in the pudding on some of this stuff. We really don't know what the Apple TV is going to be all about until the apps come out. We really don't know what the iPhone. I'm sure the iPhone will be fantastic. I mean, it's we don't know how much better the camera will be. It'll probably be significantly better. And of course, the iPad Pro is the big surprise of the day. People seem to like it much more than they thought they would. And the Apple Watch is still the Apple Watch, but now there's a pink one.
And I think that of course one of the next things will be is to see what how this quarter turns out financially. You know, they're going to be going into the quarter with a full head of steam. It's interesting to see how they book. Sales on the $32 a month, you know, from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see, you know, if they can beat last year's number, which would be almost impossible.
Almost impossible. They really need China, and China is having financial, you know, their economy is in sort of a doldrum period right now, and people are cutting back on their pricey.
Well, I think it's not that people are cutting on the pricey things. People are not buying tchotchkes; they're buying apps. I think that is like a huge piece of like what is starting to dig into China is that we're not buying a bunch of stuff that we don't need because that's what apps are for, is a bunch of little things that we don't need, you know. Exactly. And I think that I think that is going to continue to be a problem in China, is that people aren't buying the cheap stuff that they were buying before. They're still buying expensive stuff from China, but just not the cheap stuff.
Thanks for using the word stuff.
Mike, maybe you talked about this before I got on, but the one single thing that was really missing for me was no HomeKit in the Apple TV. Did you guys already talk about that?
It's interesting.
That is really interesting.
I was expecting something there, and I by the middle of it, I stopped thinking about it. You know, the distortion field had affected me, but I was expecting some more talk of HomeKit. I think they just haven't had as much traction as they expected.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering whether it's going to be in there and they just haven't talked about it yet, because they've got some time, right? I forget what the delivery is. That the one that's in November? It's a ways out.
Yeah.
No. The Pro is in November. I've got so many notes here, I've lost track. But I really, really wanted that. We've been waiting to jump into the whole home automation stuff until we had that centralized hub. Remember, everybody said it was all going to be Siri and everything's going to be cool. I want that now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want that too.
All right, well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to do our picks, etc., and then wrap up the show. But first, let's talk about Harry's. Let's talk about a really great shave. You know, one of the reasons that those of us who use Apple products, and of course, guilty as charged. I give Apple so much of my income, it's not even funny. One of the reasons is that they're beautifully designed. Everyday objects should be beautifully designed. In fact, I think that's more important to me than artwork that I hang on the wall. That everything that I use in my life should be as well designed as it possibly can be, fully functional, high performance, and that's what Harry's is all about. They make these razors. It's a razor blade. They're entering this industry where the products are ugly, awkward to use, vastly overpriced because of monopoly pricing. And with Harry's, they've cut through all that. They're basically, you know, going into an industry where razors are $4 a blade, and they're selling you razor blades for much, much less than that. And the razor blades, the razors themselves, The handles, the look and feel is very minimalist, very kind of Apple-esque, really. They're really nicely designed, and it's a joy to shave every morning.
And you don't have to walk up to someone in Rite Aid and ask them to unlock the razor.
That's right. They have the security guy with the key and
exactly.
call the manager and stuff. This guy has a beard, and we got to do something about it. Please come to the front desk. Yeah, none of that stuff. This is just going to come right to your door in a beautiful minimalist box. The starter Truman set, for example, is an amazing deal. You get all of it for $15. That comes with the shaving gel. You get the razor with the handle and 3 razor blades. And, $15, that's for what you get, that is just an amazing price. And the thing that you can't really convey over the media of video and audio is just how great this stuff smells. It's like really pleasant stuff to use, and I really, really recommend it. It's just, I use Harry's every single day. It's just so fantastic every single day. Just go to harrys.com. That's HARRYS.com, and you'll get $5 off your first purchase. Just use the code MacBreak. If you don't use MacBreak as the code, you won't get the $5 off. So use MacBreak and get $5 off. That's HARRYS.com. Enter the code MacBreak at checkout. And we thank Harry's for their support of MacBreak Weekly, and I thank Harry's for this beautiful face in the front of my head. And
it's very beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, I didn't ask for a second opinion, but thank you. That's very, very, very nice of you to say. So let's talk about a couple of, very quickly, 1 or 2 things in the news. There are other things in the news. One of them is that Apple's ramping up its hiring of artificial intelligence. We referenced this during the live stream. This is no doubt for Siri. It's for Apple TV. It's for all the things, all the cloud services.
And also driverless cars. Machine learning is, a lot of it's going to be figuring out what has to go in front of it.
Yeah, and the news came from Reuters, an exclusive by Julia Love, I believe. And basically, the news is that that Apple's actually tripled or quadrupled. They're not sure exactly their hiring of AI experts in the last couple of years, and they're really ramping it up. And it's a tough competitive market because Facebook wants them, Google wants them. Amazon wants, everybody wants these AI scientists because that's where everything is going. All these beautiful devices we're going to be using are going to be powered by cloud-based AI, artificial intelligence, using machine learning and all these other advanced technologies. It's going to be a wonderful / freaky world.
Just don't let them talk to each other. Everyone keeps on talking about letting the machines talk to the other machines. I think there's collusion there. I think that we need to be careful.
Because then it's
Didn't Stephen Hawking tell us not to do this? He told us this was really dangerous.
He did.
He's a real smart guy. We should probably listen to him.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think Elon Musk is also one of the publicly freaked out about AI people. So
those guys are idiots. So what do they know?
A bunch of idiots. Right. Just because he has a space program and an innovative car company doesn't mean he knows what he's talking about. All right, so why don't we go to our picks of the week? Alex, do you have a pick of the week?
I do. Now, I've been playing nice for quite some time, and I've been mostly doing like consumer things that are $2 or $3, and every once in a while, I have another side of me. So anyway, so this is a pro app. A lot of you won't use it, but for those of you who do production, who happen to be watching MacBreak, this is a very useful thing to know it exists. It's by Clearcom. Now Clearcom makes we buy a lot of comms systems from Clearcom. So they make the little headsets that Ready Camera 2, Go Camera 2, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And they have finally rolled out their what's called Agent IC, which is and I won't be able to get it here because it's not on the right network, but what it does is it basically can tie your iPhone or iPad into your comm system, so you have all the power. Now these boxes that we buy, and we've got quite a few of them, are $2,000 or $3,000 each, and then you can just have your iPhone do it and walk around and talk to people. And anyway, it's $250, so it's an expensive app. It's free to download just to get it to work. It's $50. And so you go up here and it'll be like whatever. It's like something plus, and you download it and you're like, this is cool, and it doesn't do anything. So, but once you have the IP, and like for instance, our comm system, we have what's called an Eclipse, and it'll tie into public IP, and when we give it that static, it can just find it from anywhere in the world, which means that you can tie all your friends in. So if you're doing semi-pro production, we give our stamp of approval. It sounds really good. It works well, which we didn't expect it to. So there you can see some of the stuff you can push, and talk to people. And anyway, it took them a long time to get to it, but it works really well. Anyway,
that's cool.
That's it.
That's very cool. I wish I did that for a living. I could get this. It looks really cool. Allison, do you have a pick of the week?
I do. And Alex has reviewed a couple things like this in the past. I don't think you've done this one. This is the Hutu TripMate TM05. It's a 10,400 milliamp hour battery, so big deal. But it's also got a it's got gigabit Ethernet, and it's a router. It's a bridge, 2.1 amp USB port. And this thing works really great. You can hook up a USB hub to it and put a bunch of junk on it, but you can use it as a media server, keep the kids entertained in the car. And
it has storage as well?
Yeah. No, but it's got a USB port on it.
Right,
so
yeah.
Plug in anything you want. It does have to be formatted FAT32 or FAT something else, the higher fats, and which kind of messed it up for me because all my movies are on an NTFS drive. But I reformatted some to test it. It'll do music, it'll do videos, it'll do photos, and it's only $60 at Amazon. So I just, why not, right?
Why not indeed?
I have a couple of the Hutu routers. I don't have that one. I haven't seen that one. That one looks great. And they work great.
I think it's new. Yeah, I had the TM04, and the only downside is it's a 2.4 gigahertz device. So I've got a combined 2.4 and 5 gigahertz network, and I, for the life of me, couldn't get the TM04 to connect to my network. Their support was great. They were really good talking to me, helping me try to figure it out. They couldn't figure it out, so they sent me the TM05, and it didn't work either, and that's when I realized it was my bad. And once I separated my networks, I could connect it up to 2.4 to extend my network, and then I could recombine the networks, and it would find the right one. But that is one thing just to keep an eye out for, just to make sure if it doesn't work for you, it's probably because you're not on 2.4 gigahertz. But it works great now.
That's cool.
They work really well. I mean, the other ones, and so I'm sure that this one works great. It's good technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they discontinued. You may have seen this one. This was the TM04.
That's what I have. Yep.
Yeah, they discontinued that one and came out with the TM05. It doesn't have a little outlet thingy on it, but you're always in a different country anyway, Alex. So
no, that would actually, I think the TM05 would be better, so I might have to upgrade.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. My pick of the week is we're talking about this new feature that Apple has where you basically take a picture, and it's actually the default. I'm kind of surprised that it's the default, actually, but it's called Live Photos. And you take a picture, and it will capture the moment before the picture was taken, the moment after, and then when you use it as for your lock screen or you post it somewhere, it'll just be a picture until you touch it or click on it or whatever, and then you'll get the little video. So there's something psychologically appealing about still photos that have subtle motion or interactive motion. It's not, a Vine video that you watch from beginning to end that tells a story or whatever. It's just like a still life with the smoke coming off of your coffee, or a still life with subtle movement. And one of the great ways to do that is called a cinematograph, which is where it's a still photo, most of the photo, and then there's something in the picture that moves subtly. And you can make beautiful ones with Cinematograph Pro for Mac from Flixel. And this is, of course, you can download a free trial, but this is a Mac application that won an Apple Design Award in 2014. So if you really want to get into this and explore this world of still photos that have subtle motion, a cinematograph, I don't think they ever go out of style. They're really beautiful, and of course you can post them all over the place, and it's just really nice.
An Apple Design winner in 2014. Connected?
I think not. All right. Well, there it is. And, this has been I personally think that this is a really, really great announcement. I love it when companies have something really solid and they just keep aggressively improving every aspect of it. And this is a case, I think, especially with the iPhone, but also I love that iPad Pro. I love a big tablet. I love a giant tablet, and I believe in the future of using tablets as replacements for desktops and laptops and stuff like that. So this is really, really exciting. Alex Lindsay, Chief Architect at Pixel Core, thank you so much for this grueling
it's always fun
set of appearances that we've done here today. This is we've been sitting in that chair for hours.
You guys tired?
No. I don't have time to be tired.
Coffee.
But thank you so much. And Allison Sheridan, thank you so much for jumping on at the last minute. So great to have you and your perspective on things. Where can people listen to NozillaCast?
So it's a Technology Geek podcast with an ever ever so slight Macintosh bias. In other words, giant Macintosh
Gigantic.
bias. It's at podfeet.com, and it's actually Nocillicast, but I went ahead and bought Nozillicast because that's what Leo always calls it anyway, so that you can still find it no matter how you spell it.
Wow. That is awesome.
My big question is, do I need something between my 12-inch MacBook and my 9.7-inch MacBook Air 1? I think I need something right in between those two, right?
Of course you do. Of course you do. What are you even asking for? Of course you do.
Got my checkbook right now.
Yes.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Right,
this was really fun.
Thank you so much as well. And I'd also like to thank Adam Christianson, who was on early, and also we dragooned into service right at the event there at the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium. Jim Dalrymple, the editor-in-chief of Loop Insight, Harry McCracken, the technologizer at Fast Company, and the one and only Christina Warren, Mashable senior tech correspondent. And it was so great to have them on. And I want to thank all of you for watching and listening today. And we normally do MacBreak Weekly at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC every Tuesday. Right here on the Twit Network. We moved it this week, of course, because of the event. You can always watch live at twit.tv/live, or you can subscribe on iTunes or YouTube, Feedly, Yahoo, you name it. There's so many ways to subscribe. You can also go to twit.tv/MBW to subscribe, to follow, to download past episodes. Every single episode is still there, so I encourage you to do that. Of course, Leo will be back in this chair next week on Tuesday, so get back to work. Break time is over.